All right, welcome back in. The best thing I read in the month of September was a piece written by Mike McFeely, and it's titled, Eagles Blue Collar Fans Expletive Love QB Wentz. I love that headline, and I also love the article. And now joining us is the fine host on WDAY and a columnist for the Forum in North Dakota, and that's Mike McFeely, who joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. Mike, thanks for a few minutes, and how are you?
I'm doing great, Zach. Glad to be with you.
Well, thanks for coming on. So I loved your article, but I also understand that you're fishing right now. So I've never had that, a guest call in and actually be fishing while he talks to us. What are you trying to catch today?
I'm actually trying to catch some catfish. I just, the Red River goes through Fargo, Moorhead, and I just needed to get out for an afternoon and huck fin it here for a few hours and put my feet up in a boat. And if a fish bothers me, that's okay. If it doesn't, that's okay too. Kind of one of those days.
I'll tell you this. I was fishing not that long ago. It was a few weeks ago, and I was waiting for one of those suckers to come up, and I ended up getting something, and I'm waiting there, the rod, I'm pulling it back, I'm like, here we go, we got something, and it was a stingray. That absolutely sucked.
I'd love to catch a stingray. That's a great story for me. I'm trying to catch catfish and walleyes in North Dakota. I'd give my left leg to catch a stingray.
Okay.
Get me out there. Take me fishing, I'll catch a stingray.
You know what? Next time you come to Philadelphia, we'll go down to the shore in Jersey and we'll do some fishing. But I have to ask you this, as before we get into the great article that you wrote, I saw on your Twitter that you went to Pat's for a cheesesteak. What's the matter with you that you went to the tourist trap that is Pat's?
Hey, that's what everybody's telling me. Everybody's beating me up on Twitter, on social media, who's from Philadelphia or Jersey. I'm just a tourist, man. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm going to Philadelphia as a guy from North Dakota. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to the tourist spots. People say you got to go to Geno's and Pat's down in the corner down there. Last time I was in Philly for the Frozen Four a couple of years ago, I went to Geno's. I was there this time, had a couple of hours before I had to catch my flight back to Fargo. So I checked out Pat's, and I'm just getting the crap beat out of me on social media.
Next time, go to either Mama's or D'Alessandro's. You got to get it right, not Geno's and Pat's. It's a nice picture, but Mama's and D'Alessandro's is the real go-to spot, as Mike McFeely joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. So I loved your article, and I love the way that you interact with drunk and high people. So I want to hear from you. Who was your favorite fan that you interacted with when you were in the fine city of Philadelphia?
Well, actually, it was a guy. It wasn't the two drunk high guys in the parking lot. They were just they were really drunk and they were really high, and so they were fine. I mean, they gave me the hook for the column, of course, and that's why I'm on your program right now. But really, the nicest guy I talked to, and you'll probably beat me up for this too. I was in the Fox and Hound in downtown Philly. Okay, because I guess it's a chain. I had never been there. I asked around. People say, I go to the Fox and Hound. Okay, fine. So I went there. But I met up with a guy there who was a lifetime Eagles fan, and he was actually in the bar with his buddy who was from Cleveland, who came into town for the game. And so they were kind of going back and forth, Browns, Eagles. Should they have drafted Wentz? Shouldn't they have drafted Wentz? Did the Browns do the right thing? But the guy who's the Eagles fan, again, kind of drunk, so you get good stuff out of them when they're kind of drunk, which is fine. As we're shaking hands, I bought the guy a beer. I said, hey, thanks for your time. Appreciate good talking to you. He grabs my shoulder and looks me in the eye and says, do you believe in Carson Wentz? In your heart, can you tell me you believe in this kid? And I go, yeah, sure. I sure can. Yep, absolutely. And he goes, good. God, I had to hear that. I had to hear that you believe in him. You know this kid. I just have to believe in this guy. And because I think people in Philadelphia, they didn't know. They still don't know whether he's the real deal or not.
You're right.
I think we certainly learned something that maybe he has a chance to be the real deal on Sunday against the Browns. But he's coming from North Dakota State. A year ago he was playing South Dakota State. He was playing Western Illinois. He was playing, Weber State a year ago. You don't know if he's going to make it in the NFL. You don't know if the Eagles did the right thing, trading away all those draft picks for the second overall pick. But what he did Sunday, you got to feel better, don't you? I mean, the city of Philadelphia has to at least sleep a little easier now than it did on Saturday night.
Oh, we're going bonkers. And yes, it is the Browns, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. But the Wentz wagon, as we like to call it, I don't think we could fit anyone else on it because it would break. It has a lot of weight on it right now in Philadelphia. But I will say, the thing I was most impressed about with Carson Wentz was how comfortable that he looked. Because I don't know how many people watched his games in North Dakota, and he was playing FCS football. It's a little bit different when you play in front of the crowd of Philadelphia. And yes, it's the Browns, but he looked like a veteran, and I loved his demeanor on Sunday. That is what impressed me the most, Mike.
And me too. And I've seen this kid play, every one of his college games, and as a backup his first couple of years. But I've followed his career as close as anybody, I guess, here in Fargo and in North Dakota. But what impressed me was that as well, Zach, that he looked like he was in control of the huddle. He made some changes at the line of scrimmage and got the Eagles into what they needed to do, some different blocking schemes, and he was very comfortable. He made some throws. He didn't early on make a lot of difficult throws. That first drive was just a lot of short dink and dunk stuff. But when he had to make a great throw on the touchdown pass to Jordan Matthews, right on the money. The touchdown pass later on in the third quarter that kind of put the game out of reach, right on the money, 35 yards down the field. He couldn't drop in there any better. But he just looked like he belonged. And I think that was the question a lot of us had, even in Fargo, even in North Dakota, was can you make that step from FCS up to the NFL right away, and how long is it going to take him to feel like he belongs and get used to the speed of the game and get used to everything going on around him, 67,000 people and the media and everything else. And it looked like he, as Doug Peterson said, like he's a 5 or 6 year veteran. And that's a good sign. That's maybe the best sign, I think.
So with Carson Wentz, when you first heard that he was going to Philadelphia, what was that first reaction that you had?
I wanted him to go to L.A., no offense to folks in Philly, because I wanted a chance to go to L.A. and hang out in Southern California and do the Hollywood thing. But when he went to Philadelphia, that is, I thought it was much better than going to the Browns. Because the talk was that if the Rams had traded up, the Eagles had traded up. Yeah, we all know the story. But if he was going to go to an absolutely terrible, horrible team, i.e. the Cleveland Browns, that was going to be a much more difficult situation for him. When he got traded or drafted by the Eagles, rather, I think myself and everybody else back in North Dakota here felt a little bit better because there's something there. It's not a complete disaster in Philly. Pretty good defense, some pieces on offense, an offensive-friendly coach in Doug Peterson that played, the quarterback, all those things. I just think that Philadelphia, aside from the tough fans, aside from you guys, the brutal media, I thought the situation itself was as good as it could be for Carson Wentz, knowing that when you get drafted early, you're going to go to a bad team generally. You're not going to go to the Super Bowl champions if you're going to the second overall pick. But I think Philly was about as good as he could figure to do going in the spot that he got drafted in.
I've only met him once, and I've only seen him in a limited amount of time when I was out at Eagles training camp, and we're talking to Mike McFeely, who has seen Carson Wentz a whole lot more than any of us in Philadelphia. And with leading into that Browns game, and I expected the Eagles to win by at least 10 points because it's the Browns, and we all know that they are a horrible franchise right now. But leading up to that game, you saw the comments from Paul DePodesta that he won't be a top 20 quarterback. You saw Hugh Jackson say he's not a right fit. Does that stuff get under the skin of the quarterback in Carson Wentz and motivate him? Because you know him a whole lot better than us.
Yeah, and I don't know that that's something that he had posted up on his locker or anything like that. But, I mean, it has to you have to take notice of that, don't you? If you're a competitive guy, and certainly Carson Wentz is, and if you have pride, and certainly Carson Wentz does, and if you want to kick the Browns' ass, and certainly Carson Wentz wanted to, you have to look at that and say, okay, if that's what you think, then that just gives me another piece of motivation. You know the way football is. Yeah, football, they'll take anything. They'll make stuff up. And so if you're the Browns, why are you giving them anything? Why are you saying that? You try to make yourself look better, obviously. You're trying to make your fans believe that you didn't make a mistake in trading away Carson Wentz's rights. But you don't give somebody something like that. Even if it's a rookie, you don't do that. And they did that, and Carson Wentz certainly, I don't know if that's the key reason why he played as well as he did against them, but it certainly only could have helped him.
Everyone right now is enamored with Carson Wentz, and that could change with a few interceptions and a bad game this week. But I also love his work ethic and the fact that he's in the facility at 5:15 in the morning, and he's beating in all these veteran players that have had success in this league. But I'm curious, and you know him better than we do, how does he handle the downs? Let's say if he has a poor game against the Bears on Monday, which I don't see happening, but how will he handle those ups and downs of a rookie season?
Well, you're talking about a guy who, in his 4-year career at NDSU, won 4 national championships and lost 5 games. So I don't know if there's been a lot of downs.
It's a good point.
In his career. He's only had success. But when he did have a down game, when he did have the off game, when they did lose some games when he was quarterbacking, he handled it very well. This is, we're talking about the Cleveland Browns. Carson Wentz is the opposite of Johnny Manziel. He's the opposite of the train wreck.
Good.
pro athlete. Exactly. And that's another reason. What the hell are the Browns thinking about? If you have a chance to get the non-Manziel, what are you doing? And then why are you trash-talking him the week before the game?
That's why the Browns are the Browns.
Exactly. He'll handle it fine. I mean, that's the strength of Carson Wentz, is that he is very level-headed. He's very pragmatic. He's going to work everybody else and outwork everybody else. He'll be fine. If he plays mediocre against the Bears, he's going to have a bad game somewhere down the line. Maybe it comes against the Steelers the week after that. Maybe it comes against the Cowboys, the Vikings. Who knows when it's going to come? But he'll bounce back and he'll be fine because that's his demeanor. He's not going to be the kid who's sky high one week and down in the dumps the next week. That's just not the way he operates.
So from our view in Philadelphia, it appears to me that everyone in North Dakota is getting behind Carson Wentz, and they love Carson Wentz for everything that he did on the FCS level, and everyone is rooting for him. How jacked up were the people of North Dakota after what they saw on Sunday?
Oh, unbelievable. I mean, they were jacked up before. One of my assignments here in Fargo on draft day was, of course, to go to a local Bison bar, the NDSU mascot, the Bison bar, and kind of watch some of the TVs and hang out with some of the fans there. And when the Rams drafted Jared Goff, the place was packed, first of all. There's several hundred people there. And it was boo! Everybody was booing and complaining. And then 3 seconds later, when Roger Goodell stood there and said, with the second pick of the 2016 NFL draft, the Philadelphia Eagles picked Carson Wentz, the place exploded. And when it became apparent that he was going to be that high of a draft choice, and he was going to be a savior for an NFL franchise, and even before that, obviously, the folks in North Dakota really jumped on board, really wanted him to do well. Because what you have to understand, being from an area that's as big as Philadelphia and New Jersey and New York and all these places, there isn't anybody who lives here. There's 700,000 people in the state of North Dakota. We don't have professional athletes, star professional athletes, overall number 2 draft picks ever. It's never happened before. It may never happen again. And so when an athlete from North Dakota makes the pro ranks, whether it's Darren Erstad or Rick Helling or Phil Hansen or Roger Maris, they are heroes. I mean, these are people that people look up to. We're basically a big, small town. That's what North Dakota is, one big, small town. Everybody seems to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. Everybody's related to everybody else. And so when somebody like Carson Wentz out of Bismarck, North Dakota, and North Dakota State gets drafted number 2 overall, it is a big deal. And right now, he is the king of North Dakota. He could be elected governor of Pennsylvania right now. If he doesn't want that, he can come back and be elected governor of North Dakota. He's got his choice, whatever he wants to do.
Hey, he could be president of the United States with the candidates we have right now.
Exactly. Speaking of which, Barack Obama yesterday name-dropping Carson Wentz in Philly. They really want votes, man. Hillary must really be hurting in Pennsylvania if Obama's dropping Carson Wentz's name. It's
unbelievable how a kid from an FCS school is now getting mentioned by the President of the United States.
Yes, and that was huge. Our website, I had somebody from Philadelphia who was at the event, texted me the video. We posted it on our website, and it was far and away yesterday the most viewed story on the forum's website, inforum.com. And everything that I wrote from Philadelphia and everything we write about Carson Wentz or post about Carson Wentz is always among the top read things. People in North Dakota right now just love him, love everything about him.
So now I have to ask you this. When that fan who was drunk and high comes up to you and says, "Hey, Mike, do you want to hit?" What was your first reaction, and why did you keep on doing the interview?
Well, I'm a reporter. I'm a columnist. I'm a talk show host. You can't turn that down. You can't turn down the interview. I turned down the weed. Let's make that clear. I didn't smoke the weed. And what I've said all along is if those two jamokes would have offered me a beer, I would have had a beer with them.
Okay.
I wasn't going to smoke weed on company time. I'll have a beer. Hey, I'll do my job. That's fine. But I mean, hey, that's what you're looking for. That was a dream interview, man. Right?
No doubt about it.
Two guys out in the parking lot, hammered, drinking beer, smoking dope, passing a joint back and forth between one another. I walked up to him and said, "Hey, you guys Eagles fans? What the bleep do you think? We're in Philadelphia." I mean, I told my wife the story. She said, "My God, that was a stupid question. What kind of question was that?" I mean, no wonder they told me. No wonder they treated you like you're an idiot because it was a stupid question. I said, "Well, I guess, but sorry." I just wanted to make sure,
So now my question is, if I go to North Dakota to do a story on the reaction of Carson Wentz in North Dakota, do you think someone offers me a joint there?
Oh, no. They'll offer you lutefisk and left side. That's what they're going to offer you. right?
Mike McFeely joins us right now. So I got a few more for you before we let you run and you go catch some big fish today in North Dakota. Who would you compare Carson Wentz to? I know when you were driving around in Philly, you heard Mike Missinelli say Brett Favre, but who would you compare him to?
Yeah, boy, that's a good question. That's one I haven't thought about. Brett Favre is such a high bar. I don't know that that's fair. I don't mean this in a bad way because he gets injured all the time, but maybe is Tony Romo a bad comparison? Just I don't know that Carson Wentz is going to be that guy like a Brett Favre who's just going to be that gunslinger type of guy who just has this outsized personality that just dominates the league. I think he's going to be a damn good quarterback. I just don't know that he's going to be that type of guy that's going to dominate the NFL and all the publicity and all the media and all that stuff. He likes to hunt. He likes to fish. He likes to do all those things. I don't know that makes him a Brett Favre. I don't know that personality is there. I think it's much more laid back, much more pragmatic, much more thoughtful than a Brett Favre.
So with that being said, though, it's so remarkable how quickly this thing was turned around. A little over a week ago, we didn't even think he was going to play that much this year. And then the next thing you know, they trade Sam Bradford after the Teddy Bridgewater injury. And I still don't know how they got a first-round pick for Sam Bradford because he's not that good of a quarterback. But when you were in Philadelphia, you heard that disdain that people had for Sam Bradford. Imagine after having your understanding in your brief time of Philadelphia, how ugly this could have got if they would have kept Sam Bradford, because the minute he threw an interception or an incompletion, rather, that someone would be getting up and chanting, "We want Wentz," and it would echo throughout Lincoln Financial Field.
Well, they did that in the first preseason game.
Yeah.
They were chanting, "We want Wentz," when Bradford took the field in the first preseason game. The thing that's amazing to me is, where I am right now, and I'm originally from Minnesota. I actually still live in Minnesota, just across the Red River from Fargo, just, a mile away or less than a mile. Actually, I live, 200 yards away from North Dakota, just on the Minnesota side. But this is Vikings country. This is, people here live and die with the Minnesota Vikings. The fact that Sam Bradford is seen as the savior of the Vikings, to me, is comical. Now that I've been to Philly and I see the disdain that people have for him in Philadelphia. I mean, I went from one day, people in Minnesota just, oh, my God, Sam Bradford, thank God he was available. Thank God the Vikings made the trade. They did what they had to do. I land in Philly. Everybody I talked to, Zach, everybody I talked to hated Sam Bradford. I mean, every fan goes, God, this guy sucks. And it's remarkable that how, 1,500 miles makes that much difference, that in one place he's seen as the possible Super Bowl savior to save a great year for the Vikings, and the other place he saved their season by leaving town. It just the opposites are incredible.
When will we see Bradford on the field for the Vikings?
I would guess this week. Sean Hill looked okay. He looked fine last week in the first game, but I would guess they want to get Bradford on the field as soon as possible. They gave away a first-round draft pick for him, so they got to get him on the field sooner or later. So my guess would be sometime this week against the Packers.
Final one before we let you run as we're talking to Mike McFeely. So when you come to Philadelphia from North Dakota, I'm sure a lot of people had some bizarre questions for you. What was the most bizarre question you received about North Dakota?
Oh, well, nothing too crazy.
Really?
Nothing too bad. No, I mean, the one tailgating before the game, I was out again asking people questions about Wentz before the game. And I walk up to a group of guys and I ask them, hey, you got time for a couple of questions? I'm a reporter from North Dakota. And the guy goes, I got to see some ID, man. I got to see your ID. I go, what for? He goes, I don't know who you are. You say you're from North Dakota. I don't know who the hell you are. Show me some ID. I go, I'm not going to show you an ID. Guy standing next to him goes, hey, listen to his accent. He's from North Dakota. He's not from around here. And so I go, there you go. And the guy goes, yeah, I suppose that's about right. And so they chatted with me. But there was nothing too bizarre. I mean, people tell me how terrible y'all are in Philadelphia. I think once people get past the suspicion, everybody looks at you kind of weird when you walk up to them and say hello as a stranger. But once you get past that, people seem nice to me. I don't know. Nobody knifed me. Nobody mugged me. Nobody punched me. Everything seemed all right to me.
Hey, I'm from New York, and I always had this same perception about Philadelphia, but I've been living here for 5 years, and it's some of the most loyal fans that you'll ever meet. And yes, they may do stupid things like throwing the tribute bracelets on the ice after their owner of the Philadelphia Flyers passed away, but all these fans, all they want to do is just win, 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 and we hope Carson Wentz can get some big wins for the Eagles. But Mike McFeely, thanks for coming on. This was a whole lot of fun, and I hope you catch something today.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.